All right, we're in episode 142, testing 1, 2, 3. Garmin versus Apple Watch. It just needed to be said, needed to be talked about. Just giving some tips out there for the people. Get lots of watch questions about this because training for stuff. I got a little triathlon picture here. Not me, just off of Canva. But get lots of questions about what my preferences were, and I've used both products. Currently rocking the Garmin. Love it. I guess it's not, it just shows the time on here now. But I was really nervous to make the change. I'd been an Apple Watch, and I have a lot of Apple stuff. I have an Apple computer. We're using the film, produce whatever this stuff right here. Apple phone, awesome. But the watch side of things over time did kind of like wear on me. We'll talk about some of the trade-offs on here. Personal experience though, I originally remember getting the Apple Watch, some kind of promo through, I think it was TELUS, because that's who my phone's with. You know, new phone, you get a new watch, and awesome. So I was like, sweet, part of the plan, they give it to you for free. Whatever, you know, free, it's built into the price, nothing's free. Nonetheless, got this watch, tried it out. My biggest reason for actually getting the Apple Watch originally was related to swimming. That's why I chose kind of like coming out of the water on the triathlon side of things here. Because later on, it ended up being like a great tool to track everything from swimming, biking, and running. And any of like the weight training stuff that I was doing in terms of keeping track of heart rate. Tons of super valuable data and stats on there that all linked up to Strava. If anyone's on Strava, knows Strava. If not, Strava's like the social media, but for like people fitness, working out and stuff like that. And it tracks all your analytics, compares you and stuff. But nonetheless, I get this Apple Watch on like a promo through TELUS. I mostly got it because when I'm swimming, I cannot for the life of me keep track of my laps at the pool. You're swimming 50 meters there and back, so 100 meters each time. Depends. Usually I do them in increments depending on the day of training. In, you know, basically starting at like 1,000 is like the low end if I'm just kind of like baseline and keeping my swimming going. And if I'm going longer, it'd be like, you know, 2,000 or 2,500 or 3,000 meter swims or 3 kilometers, whatever. But nonetheless, I couldn't keep track of those laps to save my life. And I was getting frustrated. So I'm like, you know, I got to get something like this. And then the watch thing came up and I'm like, oh, I wonder if, and then there was like an option on there when you're clicking through the screens, you can choose like different fitness things on there, whether it be like a run, a bike, weight training, swim. And the swim is either like pool or open water, and it'll track your distances. So that happens on either the Apple or the Garmin, but the Apple is where I started. So when the Apple Watch, I entered this in, I thought it was the best thing ever because I could actually keep track of my laps without having to worry about forgetting, because I'm a goldfish and a squirrel all in one here, how my brain works. And I'm like, this is the best thing ever. Turns out there's a lot of other features on here in terms of like training, as well as you can like beep your watch or get your watch, whatever, to beep your phone if you were to lose your phone somewhere. And one day I did actually, this watch saved my phone on a golf course one day. It popped out of the cart. Didn't know where it was. All of a sudden the music turned off that we were playing in this tournament. And I'm like, oh shit, my phone. And then I was like, all right, my watch. Click that thing on the Apple Watch, and I was able to go back a few holes and find my phone sitting wherever it did pop out on a corner or whatever. I guess it skipped out of the cart. And so Apple Watch, great experience. Yeah, all the way through. Good things. Easy to use technology. You can get like the text and calls. That was actually something I then took off later on because it was just too much. People would text me. I'd be like, I'd see it. I'd click it thinking I would remember to go back and text them later, or I'd quick reply, be like, text you later, whatever. You can literally type on the whole thing or do like an audio and thing to them. Never, that usually led to more issues than it did solutions for me. I know a lot of people can manage that, and that's totally great. Definitely not a me thing. But here's the kicker. The further I got into training and doing like triathlons and stuff, the longer distances I was doing with every activity. With that being said, the Apple Watch, and it literally says this in like my notes thing over here about major differences between like Garmin and Apple in terms of, where is it here? Battery life. Garmin often wins by a mile. This is one of my bigger take homes here. It's like, and there's some different features, right? I mean, it's kind of like, you know, you get really like sucked into Apple and Apple products. And, you know, if you're, I guess Garmin kind of more counts with like the Android side of things, I guess, or whatever, but don't know, doesn't matter. It actually works just fine with the Apple stuff and Strava the way that I use it. There's just a different app, just like there's one for the Apple Watch, just one for Garmin. It's called like Garmin Connect. That Garmin Connect then connects with your Strava and all your other stuff. It works fine. But I was pretty nervous at first because I'd only had the Apple Watches and they were fantastic. They were good. But the battery life was the real killer, and that's where it hit home for me. And I would suggest that to anyone like who's considering it. The Garmin ends up being awesome for that. Like I have to charge like once a week, maybe, which is crazy. The Apple Watch is an every night thing, so you gotta stick it on the charger every night. And I was getting to the point though where I'd finish a really heavy morning and my Apple Watch would be dead. And that's what ultimately drove me to be like, this is driving me nuts. I can't be charging this thing all the time. This is like taking over my life, charging my Apple Watch at this point. So I immediately Googled, where do I get a Garmin watch? As soon as it died on me, I just hit that breaking point where I'm like, okay, enough is enough. Need to go find this somewhere. So I went to a Sport Check, had one near me here, close to my house, and went and got one. I also used chat to help me choose the one that I wanted. I think this is some kind of runner thing. Hold on, I do know this. It's on the back. I literally looked this up because I had to buy new chargers the other day because I lost mine. Forerunner 965. So this is like recommended for doing triathlons, which is something I do. And it'd been a great purchase. A little bit of a learning curve, just like anything. But if you have, I'd say like an hour and you're pretty tech savvy or whatever, you have time to jump on, figure it out. After that, unreal. Like I said, charge it once a week if you need that. You go on an entire trip, you don't need to charge this thing, especially if you're not being like active at all. You could probably get away with like 2 weeks without charging, which is absolutely mind blowing if you come from the Apple Watch side of things. I mean, similar features on both of them. I'm just reading this off in here, but I would totally agree. Ecosystem fit. I mean, yeah, there's obviously more of like a seamless side of things there, but yeah, the Garmin is more flexible. It goes with both. It's not specific, but if it's an Android, yeah, there's kind of like less of a tie there, I think, as far as the Apple one goes. I'm just going to scroll down and see if there's anything I missed. Yeah, Apple Watch is kind of just like an everyday use one, almost more like a Fitbit in a way, but it's great options on there. And I'd even go as far to say like they have the different options on the Apple Watch. It really depends what you're using them for. But the first one that I had, there was only like one option, the Apple Watch. Like when they originally had, I guess like the iPhone, there was only like one version of it. Then there was like the 3 and the following sequential years, and then they just get more carried away with different features every single year with new launches and stuff. But the first version that I had was like just I should have went and grabbed them, but standard looking watch. And then the next time I went to go get a new Apple Watch, just because things had like kind of aged out, just like older iPhones, right? The battery in general does drop off. I'm not knocking that part of it, but got bad enough to a point where I'm like, okay, this is pretty rough. But even with like later use, so go to get like a new one though, and they had like like a kind of a lower end Apple Watch, the regular one, which seemed to be right where mine was in terms of like the list of things that it had. And then there was like this titanium one, which is like this extreme version of an Apple Watch. And that did catch my attention because I'm like, oh, well, like I'm doing adventure stuff. This looks crazy, but it's like double the price of kind of the regular one that I ended up getting on. But I looked at the regular one and I was like, I actually banged up my regular Apple Watch the first time around a lot, and it never broke or anything. So I'll get the Apple warranty on this thing. And if something goes astray, also got the thing, I think, from Costco at that point, because I just happened to be walking around, saw the new watches there, went for that. But picked a middle of the line one and it was fine. I was doing tons of training every day. Was not gentle with it. Let's just say that much in terms of banging into stuff. Never had an issue in terms of cracking screen. It was always pretty good. Great, pardon me, for me. Nothing broke on it ever. So I had good success there. But then, like I said, the training just kind of like ramped up a little bit more for me on triathlons and stuff. At a point, even using my newer watch where the battery was just like toast after like 3 hours of training kind of deal. Couldn't get over it. So went to Garmin, really cool setup that way. The nice thing too is that, I mean, like there's tons of, all the phone stands and stuff that I have do have the little like, Apple Watch add-on because it's super easy to do. But I would say worth its weight in gold in terms of that sanity of having the battery life there, especially if you are doing longer training. There might be the odd day that I burn through like a 20% battery on here. It's still going to last a few days, probably 4 days of training hard. If you're really going for longer distance stuff, you'd wear down the battery. But I also don't have this one hooked up to like texts and phones and stuff. I just keep it as watch. It's for training, tracks my steps, tracks my fitness. That's kind of it. So I'm not distracted by it. But that was kind of a personal preference. There's also like multi-sport stuff. It's on both of them, but I did prefer using the Garmin on that one in terms of like you running a triathlon for the day. Because it'll track like your swim, it'll incorporate the what's it called, transition, and then switch to bike in terms of you switching on to a bicycle, and then when you go through transition again, it'll automatically capture your swim, bike, and run super seamlessly out there for you. So, and yeah, does a great job of adding those metrics into Strava, the app that I was talking about before. And yeah, that's kind of it. That was a short story. I think it just needed to be said. People have been asking this for a little while here. Let's make a, I'm going to do this before we go. Make a flow chart. ChatGPT is so funny. We may share a screen here. Let's see how this turns out. If nothing else, check it out. Look at the different options. I mean, if you use something like chat or even like just Googling like different, like Garmin has a laundry list of like different options that you can get on there. This just kind of ended up being like middle of the line. There's like some way more hardcore ones, just like there was the Apple one. I don't think you really need that, even if you are pushing intensity levels, unless you're absolutely for sure going to be cracking the screen on rock, where you can get like a titanium style watch. There's also a bunch of different like bands you can get. I guess the Apple ones were a little bit more like stylish in terms of that detail. The Garmin, I didn't look up different bands, but I also didn't feel the need. It's pretty. Let's see if this flow chart comes up here. See how this looks here. Yeah, in terms of like style, I guess, like I said, Apple does have more of like an aesthetic that way, different colors and stuff. But in terms of sanity for battery life, again, I think it's important to note that that is this is a terrible looking flow chart. Okay, we'll wrap it up there. Garmin versus Apple, because people had been asking. Now we've made an episode on it. Maybe we'll have to do a take two on this with some other triathletes, get their take on their watch choices as well. But I think it's worth maybe saving someone some time on their watch search. Check out the Garmin if you haven't already, if you're having battery troubles with your other watches, but there's lots of options out there. Check out, do your own research. My experience would suggest like go to Garmin, save yourself the time on the whole worrying about battery life thing. And hopefully you enjoyed the episode.